Some interviewers just don't know when to stop. They ask the wrong questions at the worst time and expect celebrities to just smile through it. But not everyone plays nice. Some stars know exactly how to clap back and shut things down without missing a beat. These celebrities and athletes didn't hold back when faced with shady comments, personal jabs, or disrespect, leading to legendary shutdowns you won't forget. Let's get into it. Scarlett Johansson.
Now, were you able to wear undergarments?
You're like the fifth person that's asking
Well, no,
that.
because
What is going on? Since when did people start asking each other in interviews about their underwear?
No, because it is such a skin tight. Here's
I'll
why.
leave it up to your imagination.
This interviewer crossed a line so casually, it's almost shocking they thought it was okay in the first place. Scarlett Johansson was in promo mode for the Avengers, but this interviewer decided to throw professionalism out the window and focus on something completely off topic, which was her underwear. Right there, on a press tour, in front of cameras, he casually asked if she was able to wear undergarments while filming. Scarlett didn't just brush it off. She paused, called it out, and pointed out how ridiculous it was that multiple people kept asking her the same thing. She wasn't amused and made it clear she was done entertaining that type of nonsense. With a sharp tone and a look that could cut through glass, Scarlett flipped the whole thing on him, asking why underwear suddenly became interview material. Her clapback was smart, direct, and laced with that cool irritation only Scarlett can pull off. He tried to laugh it off, but it was already too awkward to recover. Mike Tyson.
Of your critics would say, there's a race for mayor. We know you're a convicted rapist. This could hurt his campaign. How would you respond to that?
Hey, I don't know who said that. You're the only one I heard say that. You know what I mean? And I don't have no comment to that, because it's negative and you're being negative. And I met the mayor,
Right.
and nothing they can do about it.
We actually had a really good time.
And if you thought that was bold, wait till you hear what happened when someone tried something similar with Mike Tyson. He was mid-interview, keeping it chill while talking about supporting a political campaign. Everything seemed fine until the interviewer decided to bring up Tyson's criminal past, right in the middle of a positive segment. Tyson's demeanor changed instantly. He calmly asked why the interviewer was being negative, and when the guy tried to brush it off, Tyson snapped. Live TV or not, he wasn't about to let that disrespect slide. He threw out a full-blown verbal takedown, calling the interviewer names and making it crystal clear he had no patience for that line of questioning. The host tried to salvage the moment, but Tyson wasn't backing down. Even his manager couldn't stop the steamrolling. Will Smith.
Oh my God! There you go. That was your problem, Come on, man. What the hell is your problem, buddy? All right. Hey, sorry. You said kiss me in my mouth. You joking? You lucky I ain't sucker puncher.
Now, imagine keeping your cool when someone actually tries to kiss you mid-interview. This is what happened with Smith. He always brings beauty and calmness to the red carpet, but this time, things went sideways real fast. A reporter, instead of asking a question, suddenly leaned in and tried to kiss him on the mouth. Smith was stunned. He backed up, gave the guy a light slap, and asked what he thought he was doing. It wasn't playful. It was uncomfortable and weird. Smith tried to keep it professional, but the disgust was written all over his face. He didn't lose control, but his response was swift and serious. He didn't just let it go. He made it known that what happened was unacceptable. Everyone around looked confused, but Smith held his ground and didn't let the guy off the hook. Jonah Hill.
When you go to a party or anything, because I run into that a whole lot. I'm the fat one. So are you the fat guy in Hollywood still, or is everybody like look at you and they're like, oh wow, this is great, now you're healthy?
Do you have any other questions?
Jonah Hill had worked hard to get in shape, but that didn't stop one interviewer from taking a shot at his past weight. Right to his face, the guy asked if he was still seen as the fat guy in Hollywood. Jonah didn't flinch, but his response was icy. He stared at him and calmly asked if there were any smarter questions on the list. It was awkward, tense, and the silence that followed said it all. Jonah had transformed, not just physically, but in how he carried himself. He didn't get loud or dramatic. He just let the moment hang there, uncomfortable and raw. The interviewer tried to recover, but it was too late. That energy shift had already happened. Jonah's refusal to play along made it clear he wasn't there to be anyone's punchline anymore. Mel Gibson.
Some people are going to welcome you back, and other people are going to be like, you should never come back.
Why?
Because of what happened before.
What happened before?
The remarks that were attributed to you.
That were attributed to me, that I didn't necessarily make. Okay, but I gather you have a dog in this fight.
Pardon me?
You have a dog in this fight, or are you being impartial?
You tell me I'm trying to be impartial, I guess.
The energy shifted again when Gibson sat down and got blindsided by questions he thought were buried years ago. Mel was doing promo work when an interviewer decided to bring up all his past controversies, unprovoked. Gibson was clearly trying to focus on his current work, but when the host started listing off past mistakes like a rap sheet, the tension exploded. Gibson didn't sugarcoat anything. He asked him directly why he was going down that road and made it clear that he had moved on even if the host hadn't. As the interview went on, Gibson's tone got sharper. He gave short and irritated answers just to underline how fed up he was. Right as the interview was wrapping, with cameras still rolling, Gibson dropped a few expletives under his breath. The host tried to laugh it off, but it was obvious Gibson was done with the nonsense. Jesse Eisenberg.
You're wondering what it's like to work with Morgan Freeman and you can't remember that? Don't call Morgan Freeman like you're on a Little League softball team with him.
I heard that you have a snap card trick that you learned or something.
Sure, yeah. You brought a card?
A lot of cards.
Do you know the comedian Carrot Top?
Yes, horrible.
Well, you were like the Carrot Top of interviewers.
Yeah.
Compared to Gibson's stormy exchange, Jesse's moment was more of a slow-burning disaster. He found himself in one of the most awkward interviews imaginable. Sitting across from a host who seemed more interested in being quirky than professional, the entire vibe was off from the start. She mispronounced his name, acted unprepared, and then demanded he perform a magic trick on the spot. Eisenberg, trying to keep things light, gave her a joke comparing her to Carrot Top. She didn't take it well. The whole thing spiraled into a passive-aggressive mess. Eisenberg stayed calm, but visibly annoyed. He tried to move the interview along, but every attempt was met with weird energy from the host. By the end, he gave in and did the magic trick, but it was clear he was checked out. Robert Downey Jr.
You've talked in other interviews again about your relationship with your father and the role of all of that in the dark periods you entered and taking drugs and drinking and all of that. And I just wondered whether you think you're free of all of that, or whether that's still something.
I'm sorry, I really don't. What are we doing?
Well, I'm just asking questions, that's all.
Right.
That quiet tension in Jesse's interview only made Downey's walkout hit even harder. Downey came into this interview ready to talk about his new film, but things quickly veered off track. The interviewer brought up RDJ's past issues with addiction and his rocky relationship with his father. Downey looked visibly uncomfortable, but tried to keep it cool. The questions kept coming though, and the vibe turned sour. Downey called it out mid-interview and straight up asked what they were even doing. He wasn't there to rehash old wounds for headlines. Once he realized it wasn't going to stop, he stood up, removed his mic, and walked out. No yelling, no scene, just a quiet refusal to be dragged into something he didn't sign up for. Samuel L. Jackson.
A reaction to that Super Bowl commercial?
What Super Bowl commercial?
Oh, you know what? I've admit my mistake.
See, you're as crazy as the people on Twitter.
Right.
I'm not Lawrence Fishburne.
That's my fault. I know that. That was my fault. My mistake. You know what?
We don't all look alike.
You're exactly
we may be
right.
all black and famous,
You
but
are
we all don't look
guilty.
alike.
I am guilty.
Things took a different kind of awkward turn when Samuel L. Jackson had to deal with a whole identity mix-up. He sat down for what should have been a straightforward TV interview. But the host kicked things off with an annoying blunder by confusing him with another black actor, Lawrence Fishburne. Jackson didn't let it slide. He stopped the entire segment and called it out immediately. His reaction wasn't explosive, but it was sharp and cutting. He made it clear that confusing two actors just because they're both black is not only lazy, but deeply disrespectful. The host tried to laugh it off, but Jackson kept pushing back with that signature intensity. He repeated the mistake out loud to make sure it landed. The embarrassment in the room was heavy. Jackson didn't just check the host, he made it a teachable moment. And you could tell the interviewer wanted to disappear into his chair. Dylan McDermott.
Mom, I know your mom was killed, right? But did they?
There you go. That's what I'm getting to.
Was it something that was ruled accidental and then declared a murder?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to get into that now. You know, I'm just talking about LA to Vegas, but
okay.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. And,
What night is that on?
It's on Tuesdays at night.
It's on Tuesday. It's not the death slot. Hey, speaking of death. Okay. What time? LA to Vegas, I love.
Dylan McDermott was there to talk about his comedy series, but the mood changed in an instant when comedian Jim Norton casually brought up the murder of McDermott's mother. It came out of nowhere and landed hard. McDermott was caught off guard, but tried to keep it cool. He gave a short, serious answer and clearly wanted to move on. But the hosts didn't take the hint. They kept talking about it and even made a joke tying the show's airtime to her death. You could see McDermott's whole vibe shift. He stayed composed, but his eyes said it all. And just when it couldn't get any worse, they offered him a shot of whiskey, completely forgetting or ignoring the fact that he's in recovery. Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but it's got a family. It's got the journey of this family. Yes. Now, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Come here. Why would you do that?
Right when you think it couldn't get weirder, someone literally sprayed Tom Cruise in the face. Tom was on the red carpet, doing press like always, when a prankster decided to use his moment to humiliate him. During what seemed like a regular interview, the guy squirted water from a fake microphone right into Cruise's face. Tom's smile dropped instantly. He didn't freak out or storm off. Instead, he stepped closer, looked the guy straight in the eyes, and calmly asked why he would do that. There was no yelling, just disappointment and control. Cruise didn't let the guy off easy either. He kept pressing him, demanding a real answer. The prankster tried to laugh it off and escape, but Cruise wasn't finished. He refused to move on until he called out the behavior for what it was. That calm, collected takedown was more powerful than any angry outburst could have been. Billy Bob Thornton.
Cinematic endeavors. The Boxmasters is anything but a diversion from the silver screen. He's always intended to make music, and he just got sidetracked. These days, music is a major priority in his life, and it's something he's obviously embracing.
Could you explain why it's not a hobby?
Would I explain why it's not a hobby? Are you reacting to the fact that I said?
Yeah, I am. Since you're instructed not to talk about shit like that, yeah, I am reacting to that. Yeah.
I wasn't instructed to. I'm not really instructed. You guys are here as a band. You're performing, but
the producer is instructed.
Right,
but somewhere along.
Cruise might have handled that prank with class, but Billy Bob Thornton had no interest in being polite. He walked into a Canadian radio interview hoping to talk about his band, the Boxmasters. But as soon as the host mentioned Thornton's acting career, everything changed. Billy's face turned cold, and his answers got strange and vague. He had specifically asked for his Hollywood past to be off limits, and the host completely ignored it. What followed was a painfully awkward interview where Thornton barely responded to questions, gave sarcastic answers, and clearly had no interest in playing along. At one point, he even mocked Canadian audiences just to get under the host's skin. Jim Everett.
Check that, Chris Everett. Good to have you on the show.
You know what? You've been calling me that for about the last 5 years.
About 2 years, actually, Chris.
Well, hey, you know what? Let me say one thing. In that game, how many sacks did I have that we came back and won?
How many sacks did you have?
How many sacks?
Let's see, but this was back in 1989.
Okay, that was about
you may have even been Jim Everett back there, but somewhere along the way, Jim, you ceased being Jim and you became Chris.
Well, let me tell you a little secret. That you know, we're sitting here right now, and if you guys want to take a station break...
Chris?
Jim Everett had been dealing with the same tired joke from radio host Jim Rome for years. Rome kept calling him Chris Everett, mocking him with the name of a female tennis player to question his toughness. On this day, Everett finally had enough. He was live in the studio, sitting across from Rome when the host dropped the name again. Everett warned him, told him flat out not to do it again. Rome smirked and doubled down. That was the last straw. Everett didn't hesitate. He lunged across the table and slammed into Rome, sending the set into chaos. The broadcast cut out fast, but the message had already been delivered. Bill Burr.
Yeah. And I'm going to do stand-up in front of 9 people in a radio station? No, I'm not doing that.
Well, you're taking the fun out of Southside Steve TV.
I'll take, how about I give you $5 and I want to watch you line dance and I'm a racist cowboy. I don't know.
Everett went physical, but Bill Burr took a different route and made this entire interview his personal roast session. He walked into a local radio station for a regular promo interview, but what he got instead was a mess. The hosts were unprepared, calling him up with no clear direction, and then had the nerve to ask him to perform on the spot like a circus act. Burr wasn't having it. He stayed seated, but made his irritation clear. When one of the hosts shoved a microphone in his face, Burr flipped the dynamic. He grabbed the mic himself and turned the tables, pointing out how ridiculous the whole setup was. Vince McMahon.
Here now, Vince McMahon. Thanks for coming, Vince. Can you guarantee me right now that there will be a year 2 for the XFL?
What a ridiculous statement.
It's not a statement, it's a question.
It's a question. I beg your pardon. It's a question. No.
If this turns out to be a grand-scale failure...
You want to let me finish here for a second, pal? Shut your mouth and let me answer the question, all right? I'll be happy to answer. You got a situation that you don't know what you're talking about.
Vince, we gotta go.
Oh, it's too bad. This is such a delight.
Then there was Vince McMahon, who brought full WWE energy into a real-life studio battle. Vince sat down with Bob Costas for what was supposed to be a talk about the XFL, his attempt to shake up football. But Costas opened the conversation by questioning whether the league would even survive a second season. That triggered Vince immediately. He leaned in, raised his voice, and started challenging Costas directly. The vibe turned hostile fast. McMahon wasn't having the pessimistic tone or the smug delivery. As Costas kept pressing, Vince got more agitated, even telling him to shut his mouth at one point. It felt like he was one chair flip away from going full WWE in that studio. The whole interview turned into a tense back and forth, with McMahon refusing to let Costas control the conversation. By the end, it was clear Vince didn't come there to be doubted, and he wasn't leaving quietly. Some interviewers just don't learn, but these moments prove that celebrities and athletes know exactly how to shut it down when things go left. If you enjoyed watching them take control, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe for more interesting videos like this.